Now what will it be? Death or exile?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my first review of 2020. Sounds good to say it. And it's going to be on a film called The Gentleman, directed and written by the impeccable, incomparable Guy Ritchie. Look, Guy Ritchie is one of my favorite directors of all time. And after seeing this film, I think he climbed up a couple spots. That's how good I think this film is. So The Gentleman is a gangster flick, but it's not a gritty, grimy gangster flick. It's Guy Ritchie's auteur style. It's a Cockney gangster flick. It has humor in it, has a very intelligent script, has great dialogue, very interesting characters, a lot of storylines and a lot of plot lines that interweave and seem disparate but come together beautifully in the end. And guys, I really enjoyed this movie. The first thing I'll say about this movie is that this is not your typical Guy Ritchie film. I mean, it is a Guy Ritchie film. He's an auteur director, and his signature is gonna be on any good film that he makes. But it doesn't have, the typical visual flourishes and spectacle that Guy Ritchie is known for doing. It relies more on the narrative, on the dialogue, and oh my God, dialogue for days. Guy Ritchie is at the top of his game. The only other director I can think of that's doing dialogue at this level would be Quentin Tarantino. So if you're impressed by Quentin Tarantino, if you like Quentin Tarantino's work and that style of film, you're gonna love this film. This is gonna be right up your alley. And even before going more in depth into this review, I'll tell you that if The Gentleman was released in 2019, it will rank higher on my top 10 films than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did. This movie is so much fun. It's a blast. It's absolutely a good time at the cinema. And this is cinema, a very crafty, well-made film. So the general plot synopsis is that Matthew McConaughey's character, Mickey Pearson, is the overlord and kingpin of this monumental weed organized crime business in the UK. And in order for him to pull off this feat of, lording over this massive empire, he's had to do some genius, behind the scenes underground work, some logistics to make it happen, because it's quite difficult to do in the UK, because you can't just, grow weed out in the open anywhere. There isn't a lot of land. So a prospective buyer comes from the US, and he's coming with a boatload of cash. We're talking about $500 million to buy his empire, because weed is moving into the legalized aspect of it, and a lot of legitimate businessmen are going to be able to make business from it. Now, you might be thinking, so why doesn't Matthew McConaughey's character just, go into legal business? Well, it's because he's a gangster. He came up and built this whole infrastructure off of bloody hands and real cutthroat gangster stuff. So he cannot be the face of this new business as a notorious, well-known gangster. And he is fine with moving into retirement with a boatload of cash and selling his infrastructure that he's already built, that's a money-making machine, to someone who can be the legitimate face of a legitimate cannabis empire. And that's the basic plot synopsis. And it's an ensemble film. There's a bunch of characters, and the characters make the film. They're all interesting characters. What I really love about The Gentleman is that apart from the fact that these characters have their personal quirks, personal tics, their personal characteristics, for lack of a better word, their sartorial style tells a story about who they are, their position in the class hierarchy, how they approach life, how they approach business, how they approach the events of the film. So it'll definitely be fun to go into, what these characters are all about. And I'm going to highlight the major players. So we start with Matthew McConaughey, who plays Mickey Pearson, and I'll describe him as an old lion. He's a real OG. He's a mastermind, very intelligent, near genius level intellect. He's a kingpin. Very smooth, Matthew McConaughey with that silky voice. He's untouchable. He's an American expatriate living in Britain. His style is very American, with lots of tweed and check patterns and three-piece suits. Then the next character we'll talk about is Charlie Hunnam. And Charlie Hunnam is actually the character that's the most in the film. He plays a character called Raymond. And Raymond is Matthew McConaughey's number 2. I describe him as a faithful dog. And I don't mean dog in a derogatory way. I mean it in the most honorable and praiseworthy way. He's a faithful dog. He's his best man. He's his number 2. He's the person that he puts on the job because he knows that he gets shit done. He's also very street smart, very intelligent. You cannot outfox him. You cannot outsmart him. As I said, he's actually in the film the most. And the film is really interesting the way it unfolds because the first half of the film, about an hour, is just two characters having a conversation back and forth. Snappy dialogue. Quirky, fun, cool, interesting, quite lyrical, very melodic dialogue, and interspersed with scenes as a character sort of narrates the events that have led up to that point. Then from that point, it moves on in regular fashion. Charlie Hunnam's style is quite, I'd call it country and northern. Northern in the UK is equivalent of southern in the US. Just think of it as inverse. So it's quite country with, long wool coats. He wears lots of waistcoats, striped gingham shirts, very, country estates. I'd say the aesthetic is very Ralph Lauren, and it suits his character well. He's a gangster, but he is a gangster with a touch of class. A gangster who doesn't want to associate with, the hoods and the projects anymore, and, wants to strive for a level of etiquette and class. He's a gentleman. The character that we'll talk about next is Hugh Grant's character. And Hugh Grant's character is a Fletcher. He is a slimy, greasy, gross sort of news investigative journalist / newspaper reporter. And he starts the film off in with an indecent proposal. A proposal that Charlie Hunnam's character and Matthew McConaughey's whole enterprise cannot accept, just based on the principles of gangsterism. He is the least gentlemanly character, and his style, his sartorial style shows it. He's dressed kind of like a 70s porn star, oversized leather jackets, greasy hair, a goatee, these sort of uncool sunglasses that he doesn't mind wearing indoors from time to time. And it's quite interesting because in real life, Hugh Grant is a very smooth, classy, charming gentleman. And he flips in this movie and plays a person who's anything but that. His voice is weird and funny, and he talks with a lisp, and so the whole thing is just he's an interesting character, and he's a really interesting foil as an opposite to Charlie Hunnam's character. And as I said, they carry on a conversation that goes on for about an hour, and it's just incredible to see that level of writing. Next up, we have Michelle Dockery, who plays Rosalind, and Rosalind is the wife of Matthew McConaughey's character. I'll describe her as a queen bee. She is, very powerful, sexy, feline. Matthew McConaughey's character, Mickey Pearson, is madly in love with her, respects her to death. He's infatuated with her. He's wildly attracted to her. And you can tell that he really loves her spirit. And you can tell that she's his backbone. All of his, underlings and his men and his, lieutenants and everything, they all, listen to whatever she says. Sometimes it seems even over Mickey Pearson himself. And her style, you can tell, is like this sort of uber expensive, sleek, uptown, like, designer bags, designer sunglasses, tight fitting, dark clothes. And she's just like a bad boss bitch. She is amazing in this role. Next up, we have Jeremy Strong, who plays Matthew, and he's the American businessman who wants to buy Mickey's weed empire. And he doesn't really have a style. He's quite a nerdy, sort of financial, like business kind of guy. His character was quite off-putting, but in a different way from Hugh Grant's character, who was quite smarmy. He just seemed like a schemer, like a very untrustworthy person who thought himself as smarter than everyone else and was always looking to get over on everyone. I'd say out of all the actors, he did the least impressive job. He wasn't bad, he was decent, but as a villain, I don't think he brought anything really special to the role. Although he's still interesting, it's just that he was a star amongst supernovas. Next up, we have Colin Farrell, who plays a character called Coach. And Coach is not actually a gangster, but he plays a role that's similar to a gangster's role in terms of he's ready, willing, and able to get his hands dirty, to, take out whoever he needs to take out, go the extra mile, get his hands bloody, that sort of thing. He's a leader in the community who knows how to handle himself with all the little gangsters, and they all look up to him. He runs a boxing gym in the East London projects, and most of the kids who, look up to him and follow his lead and, will take his word as bond are black kids. I found that like quite interesting. And there's this like gang of black kids called the Toddlers, and they're making like YouTube videos, like causing mayhem, shooting viral videos. Like they actually like shoot a rap video, and this shit actually like bumps. Like there's like a little like rap video in the middle of the film, and Guy Ritchie's just in his bag on this one as usual. Such a great director. And so the style of this whole collective Colin Farrell's people is they're the only guys that wear trackies, while everyone else is kind of suited up, gentlemanly, like, sort of GQ style. These guys, they're wearing trackies. These are in the US, we call them tracksuits. In the UK, they're called trackies. I mean, they're stylish trackies. You know what I'm saying? They're coordinated, they're fitted, all that good stuff, but they have their own style. Next up, we have Henry Golden, who goes by the nickname of the film Dry Eye. He's always called Dry Eye. And Henry Golden is of Crazy Rich Asians fame. I describe him as a young dragon. So in the Asian gangster community, he's like a really young guy who's super ambitious and is trying to make a come up. So he kind of like gets in the story, and his hunger and his thirst for power, acquiring territory, acquiring business, kind of gets him in trouble, kind of stirs up the pot a little bit, and gets everybody in kind of crazy situations that everybody has to, maneuver around. His style is very European, slick suits, slick overcoats, very plain colors, no patterns, clean lines. He just looks like new money. He's this sort of brash, young, headstrong, ambitious, classy, inexperienced guy. And he's described even in the film as an Asian 007. Clean cut, good-looking, charming young guy. And so this ensemble cast, they just do an amazing job. These are all incredible actors. Guy Ritchie gives them incredible material to work with, incredible lines of dialogue, and it all just is so impressive. Like, this is cinema, you know? This is next level storytelling. Like, sit back while Guy Ritchie spins a yarn. As I said, the narrative thrust of the film is basically about 60% of the film is two characters having snappy dialogue back and forth, while scenes are interspersed between their words. And then it comes to a point, and then it moves, forward in the present. But it's so cleverly done, and this script is so intelligent. The dialogue is to die for. The plot is snappy. It vibrates in high frequency. I absolutely love this. It's Guy Ritchie's signatorial, Cockney gangster style flicks, but it's more upscale. It has more polish to it, with a sartorial style, more upscale living, less grit. It's not as much in the hood, although they do visit the hood and some dope, interesting, fun stuff happens. Trust me. The tailoring and sartorial style in this film is impeccable. I cannot give the stylist and the fashion designers and the costume designers enough credit. Each character has their own style, as we've discussed, and it tells a story. And The Gentleman is about when the cutthroat world of organized crime meets the cutthroat world of corporate organization, and the shenanigans that can happen, when that happens. So, I mean, when this movie ended, I wanted to stand up and clap, It really was that good. The Gentleman is restrained. Guy Ritchie is a director who's able to deliver spectacle. A lot of razzle-dazzle, some razzmatazz. But with this film, it's so sophisticated. And he reined it in and was so disciplined. The Gentleman relies on fine acting of its thespians and the craft of narrative storytelling propelled forward by an intelligent script and lyrical melodic dialogue. This level of restraint and class is so impressive. Only a gentleman or a lady could make this movie, and it will take a gentleman or a lady to appreciate it. Thanks for listening to my review. It was quite lengthy, but damn, I love this movie so much. 2020 did start off right. This was high up on my most anticipated movies of the year, and as a matter of fact, it really outdid what I expected. So if you're looking forward to The Gentleman, let me know in the comment section below. Have a little bit of a dialogue with me. If you've seen it, tell me what you think as well. Thanks for listening to this review. Cheers, and to all my ladies and gentlemen, stay exiled.